Hello and welcome back to Scale War Machines and the latest video in my workshop build series. In the last film I looked at installing organisers, especially these laser cut items from Green Stuff World. But what I really needed was something that would allow me to make custom pieces. That's handy. A laser cutter. I wonder how that got there. This is the Creality Falcon A1 10-watt laser cutter and engraver. And if I've got this right, it should help me design and either cut or engrave custom pieces in materials like plywood, MDF and coloured acrylic. It came from Creality themselves, and as always I'll put the pricing in the description if this is something you might be interested in. Creality make all sorts of 3D printers and laser cutters at different price points, and which are squarely aimed at the consumer. They'd contacted me in the past about reviewing their Falcon A1 laser cutter and engraver on the channel, but as I had no real use for it at that time, I didn't feature it. But then I started thinking about how I could actually use a tool like this to improve and customise my workspace. They were kind enough to see the value in that and supported this workshop series by supplying this machine for review. There are plenty of other channels who've done extensive reviews and unboxings, but what has always interested me about this machine is whether I could easily design my own custom creations and quickly produce them myself. I'll start by telling you about the machine, the lessons I learned in setting it up, and how long it took me to get it doing the sort of thing I needed it to do. We'll explore what comes in the box, how you assemble it, what were the pitfalls in setting it up, as well as the considerations that became a factor, what are the machine's features, and what can you do with them. I'll be talking about the bundled design software, Falcon Design Space, how you can download designs from that space. I'm quite tech savvy, but I enrolled my nephew Max to help me with this video, as he did product design at A-level and likes these sorts of machines. I'll just time-lapse through the unboxing here in VoiceOver and explain the features of this machine. Right, let's unbox.
Rightio.
As you can see, with the help of my nephew, I unboxed the machine itself, and it's fairly big, although it wasn't too heavy once unboxed.
It's not too bad actually.
Yeah, once
rather lightweight.
So you get rid of the... Just get that out of the way. I would say it's a convenient size to move around something like a workshop, and it's got a really elegant design. I'll put on screen the exact measurements of the working area of the machine. As you can see, it came really well packaged and all the plastic is protected with a peel away coating. At the back of the machine you've got the extractor, and at the side you've got the main power and plug-in settings, as well as an emergency stop. The finish is excellent, and once you open the actual unit you get all the accessories, including a bag full of extras, tools, power pack, cables and so on. There's an air pump, because this comes with air assist which will help with extraction, and there's also a hose. And finally at the bottom you get some calibration tools and a piece of basswood ply. This is a tip I got from another YouTuber, is to actually remove the handles so you can peel away all the plastic from the front piece. So here's a good look at the machine. I was umming and ahhing about where to place it, and we unboxed it just on a rolling tool chest. But it was compact enough that I could consider siting it in the actual workshop itself. I had a place in mind on the back wall, so my nephew put it over there and we started setting it all up. It's worth noting that in terms of materials, Creality also sent these acrylic sheets. They do these 3mm acrylic sheets. The machine will actually cut solid colour acrylics, but it won't cut transparent ones. In addition, they sent 10 sheets or so of plywood, and this is their honeycomb mesh, which just keeps the subject off the base plate and helps preserve it a little bit, creating that standoff difference. There you get a quick glimpse of all the accessories, and notice that there's keys as well, because you can actually lock this machine to stop kids or whatever from accessing it. It was fairly easy to set up. My nephew did that, and he's just going to explain what exactly was involved. This was all fairly quick.
Excellent. So that's the silicone tube. So just to summarise, silicone tube gone into here, that goes straight into the air pump. Pump is connected here. So it goes through here, powers this, and then it powers the hose directly into here. I think that's everything. The only thing I need to do now is switch it on.
In our case, we had to release the emergency stop for it to power up.
Emergency stop? Oh, there you go. The emergency stop was on, that's why. So now you can hear the air pump. Okay, that's right.
And this is auto start stop. and it helps to circulate the air and expel it through the hose, which you can see here. But as is often the case, we hit a bit of a hurdle to do with software. Now, I got it in my mind that I could run this off Bluetooth using a mobile phone. This is totally my fault. I saw there was a Falcon Design Space app, downloaded it, and believed that I would be able to connect with the machine and use it immediately in my workshop. It was fairly obvious that that wasn't the case.
That's why I prefer Windows as opposed to...
I tried to use a laptop in my workshop and the computer I've got there, but for a variety of reasons the desktop was too old. The final attempt was to use an iPad and connect it directly using a USB cable, but that didn't work either. Let me save you the time and tell you what needs to happen. This is a machine that has to be connected physically to a computer, and of course that computer has to be set up right to run the design software. So it took a bit of umming and ahhing, but I decided that the simplest way of doing this was to move it to another location so I could plug it in directly to my other computer, one I use for editing and the YouTube channel, and from that moment on it was all plain sailing. Lesson learnt, I should have informed myself a bit more beforehand. So once you've got the machine assembled, what you have to do is focus the laser, and they provide a little aluminium aid for that. And that again is very easy, and the software walks you through the stages of configuring the machine. At this stage we didn't calibrate the camera, and we didn't update with any firmware or other software updates. I connected to a larger hose and ran that out of the window of the office, and then the machine whirred very quickly into life. What it does when you've set it up and got it working properly is it engraves this little logo to show that everything is working.
Hello?
And there's the quality of the engraving. What a lot of people can do is use the Falcon Design Space to search for and download designs, and that's what I did as the very first cut on this machine. It's a design for a surfboard phone holder that combines engraving with cutting. Here you can see it merrily engraving, and that's just a case of setting the thickness of the material, making sure that the engraving isn't set too powerfully, usually 40% is good, and make sure the cutting is at about 75%. It took a few minutes and did the job very quickly, very cleanly, and very impressively. Here you can see it completely cut through and left behind the two pieces. The engraving too was noteworthy as it was really precise. I've checked with Creality, it's perfectly normal that the base plate has damage like this, and you can see that. At this stage I went back to some files I designed in Adobe Illustrator. And what I wanted to do was to cut some finger pulls and handles for the paint racks from Green Stuff World. I was pleased to see it was fairly easy to import everything into the software, set the power and speed settings, and then let the machine just cut a few finger pulls. It does produce a fair amount of smoke. It's definitely something that leaves a smell in the house. So this is ideally placed in somewhere like a workshop. Now I have the problem that I can't connect to it in the workshop. So what I've come up with is a solution to put this out in a semi-outside space, a sort of veranda conservatory space, and it actually works really well in there. The hose can be vented out. If it smells, it doesn't really matter. A quick note on safety. I checked with Creality, and because of the enclosure, you don't need laser safety goggles. If you want to wear them as an additional level of protection, you can do. But as this is enclosed, you shouldn't have any fears about damage to your eyes from the laser. So these are the very first custom designed pieces. So I'll put up on screen the Illustrator file and the result, and most of that cutting was done well. Didn't quite have the power high enough, so one of the pieces had a little bit of fraying, but otherwise it cut really well. Notice how the honeycomb does have a bit of charring, and this again is perfectly normal. And here you can see the base plate, it didn't actually do that much damage. And this is where it's pretty much going to be used for the next cuts I do. You can see it's an attractive looking unit and will sit well in most craft spaces or workshops. Here we are then. I adjusted the dimensions to get the finger pulls exactly the size that I wanted. I also added some engraving. These were just JPEG images, and it's very easy in the software to bring those in, incorporate them into your designs, and create engraved items. So these are my first cuts and engraved items. And this was all up and running in a period of about 4 hours. These are extremely simple designs, simple shapes and simple designs, and the machine can handle this pretty much without even breaking a sweat. And here are the engraved and cut items. I'll be attaching those to the sides of paint organisers to make them easy to manoeuvre around the workshop. This will help me to swap out different paint racks and know instantly what goes where. But this just shows how much of a versatile and useful machine the Creality Falcon really is. That feature where you can frame your design and check that the laser is going to cut on the actual material is just so useful. Here you can see it marking it out and showing me where it's going to be cutting, and to minimize wastage, frankly. So you can always put a cut piece of wood in and know where the laser is going to cut. It's a really good feature. What I had to do was buy a longer USB cable, and as you can see I had to keep coming in and out, and that's something I'm going to eliminate by tweaking its location and its setup outside. I even managed to squeeze on some 300mm sized items right onto a sheet. These are 300 by 300 sheets that they supply. And there again the framing tool helped me just to align everything, and I did manage to maximize all material usage with some cuts at 300mm. In one case I needed some little plates to help position this side piece on my paint rack organizer, and it's just so quick to take a measurement, nip to the machine, set it going, and within a very short period of time you've got two precisely cut items. In this case I attached them to the side piece and they just help locate it at the side. So here are those pieces cut, and you'll see how they integrate into my up and coming design. Now, as I mentioned at the start, I wanted to customize this piece from Green Stuff World. But I think this I'm going to heavily customize, so I'm probably going to put a solid piece of MDF under there, so this becomes a shelf. It's a 3-piece modular paint rack, and I want to put it at the side of the desk. One of the first things I thought about with this design was I wanted to be able to put in removable shelves, so I could choose and make the rack more modular. Either I could use what's underneath or just put in some flat shelves, and items could sit on that. This was the first slightly more challenging shape. I had to make this corner piece. It was actually really easy in Illustrator. Once I'd figured out how to do the cutouts in the design, I just set it up and the machine cut it, no problem. I could actually test fit it in place and it worked really well. It did require a couple of little pre-cuts, but once I got it all figured out, these slot into the actual modular rack really well and transform them into a simple shelf. I cut a few more pieces and I was ready to try them out at the workbench. That worked pretty well, and fairly quickly I could design on the fly, and I thought it would be useful to have some small caddies or boxes that could integrate into this new shelf design, but also be removable and something I could move around the workshop and organise other types of miscellaneous shapes, bottles, tools, etc. So I designed these simple 80 by 80 boxes, 40mm high, and I did that in Illustrator, and I managed to squeeze them onto the leftover material on a sheet of 3mm ply. Then I could nip into the workshop and assemble them quickly and easily. So by this stage I was really falling in love with the potential of this machine. Yes, there are one or two little shortcomings perhaps, and sometimes you might need more power, but generally the ability to spot a gap like that 80mm square gap there that could take a caddy, and then design something, cut it and assemble it, for me that's just mind-blowing. It means you can do stuff on the fly and build up a design or prototype very, very quickly. At this point I was really enjoying using this machine. I decided I would need somewhere to place this mini drill. I designed a custom holder in Illustrator. It was extremely easy to cut the parts and assemble them. It didn't even require that many reiterations. Front piece, an end piece, a spline, and two sides, and I could make those very, very quickly. Here's some footage of the cuts. I then even designed a nameplate for it. I think I'll end the video here. I'll look at other features and designs I come up with in future videos. Suffice to say, I've found this exceedingly useful, and I'm really getting into my stride now with measuring and designing items, and you're going to see a lot of custom items integrated into the brilliant existing storage that I've used from Green Stuff World. I'm going to try and make custom items that fit precisely all my different favourite tools, and really try and optimise my workflow in this workspace. I mean, it's exciting for me, and hopefully you're enjoying it too. But if you've ever hesitated and wondered whether one of these machines is useful, well, I can say I have certainly 100% found this useful, inspiring, and my head is abuzz with all sorts of creative projects with this machine. Alright, that's all for now. I hope you've enjoyed this video. There'll be more videos in the workshop build series, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.
Subscribe for our latest videos.